This is the Critical Ears podcast where we interview audio engineers and professionals so we can give you the best advice and the knowledge of what's currently going on. Today we have Joe Anderson on with us. He runs the sound at Utah Valley University's Noorda Center. That's the Performing Arts Center. He also has his own company, that's Andersound. He has been doing this for a long time, and he has done all sorts of different events, and he has a vast wealth of knowledge on the technical side, the intuitive side, and the social side to be able to succeed in this crazy industry. So we hope you enjoy. Thanks. Joe, we're really excited to have you here on the podcast today. We've seen each other passing at UVU as I've been able to play the saxophone, and that you are unfortunately on the other side of things. Maybe turning me down a little bit.
No, absolutely not.
It's been really fun to see you in passing, and we're so grateful to have you here today. With your career going as far as it has, where do you think, why don't you just tell us a little bit of how this all started with your experience in sound?
Well, excuse me. I never sought out doing this as a job. I actually, in high school, was talked into joining the show choir, and I really loved it. Like I really enjoyed doing that, and I just planned just to do that for the rest of my life. And so right out of high school, I went to college, Rick's College in Idaho back then, and auditioned to be in their show group, the one that tours everywhere. And I walked into the audition and sang my heart out, and they cut me off and said, thank you. Next. No. That was it. That was the end of my singing career.
It's not the end. It's never the end. It's never the end until it's the end, right?
But actually, that was on a Friday. And on Monday, I went back to the director and I said, hey, do you remember me? He's like, yeah, didn't you audition last year? And I was like, no, it was Friday, but that's okay. But I told him, I was like, I really feel like I need to be doing this somehow, be in this business or whatever it is. Yeah. And he's like, great, we need backstage technicians. We need tech crew. I had no idea what that was. I didn't know what tech crew was. And I did that. I was a backstage guy. I was changing costumes. And then I came back a second year, and he put me behind the soundboard.
Wow.
Mixing the live sound. Like,
any training? He just tossed you back there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Very little.
And there wasn't YouTube, I don't think. Or was there YouTube at this time?
No
YouTube.
Wow. This was in the century prior.
This was in the century prior.
Yeah.
Horse-drawn wagons.
Back in the 1900s.
Back in the 1900s. Yeah.
So did you go to school after that for audio, or?
No, I have a communications degree.
Okay.
I studied public relations, but all the while I went from working with that group at Rick's College to working with a similar group at BYU for 5 years. And when they weren't touring, I was working at the Dion Concert Hall and Madsen Recital Hall and all of those performance places at the Harris Fine Arts Center at BYU. So these beautiful halls, and was able to work next to a guy who had lots of experience and was a great studio guy also that helped me learn things. Well, no, I was working for him, and then the people I was helping at BYU with the performing groups, I would learn from them, and from there, started getting summer jobs doing sound, and just kind of, there were a couple of classes at BYU back in the day. There were a couple of recording classes, and there was one live sound class taught by the guy that kind of handled all that stuff on campus, and that's kind of where I learned a lot of technical things.
Mixing and...
But it was mostly just being thrown into the fire and just trying to not burn up.
So what would you say about you're throw in the deep end and just sink or swim, right?
Yeah.
What would you say schooling versus just throwing yourself in the deep end? Because I have some thoughts on this after, I'm just finishing my music degree, right?
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We got the green in the background. Go Wolverines.
Go Wolverines.
What do you think about that?
I think there's wisdom in both, because I think I learned things that I could never learn in a classroom by being thrown into it. Just like circumstances, like experiences that would never come up in a classroom setting, especially with like supervision of someone who knows what they're doing. You'd never get into the deep, dark depths that I got into. At the same time, a lot of those things maybe would not have happened if I had some theory, things that I had learned ahead of time. Like, oh, I can't do this because I learned that when I set up this gain structure or whatever it is that I do, this is not going to happen to me. So there's wisdom in both. And I think both are really important for either of them, for someone going just from book studies and classroom, like someone taking off from their career from there, they need to have some real world experience. And somebody just jumping into it has to be able to learn the science a little bit and the theory and the practices. So
I've definitely seen that when I was doing sound for Secret Garden, the musical, just for community theater. It was like I'd taken all of the things that I learned in the classroom, and then I was applying it as I was learning it. But at the same time, it was like it was a little bit of being thrown into the fire, having never like been on a soundboard before, and taking all of my, mixing knowledge and stuff like that and trying to apply it to live sound. And it's like, why aren't these techniques that I learned wearing headphones in the studio not working on stage? And it's because it's totally, totally different principles almost.
right, and two different worlds, really, studio and live, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think? You said the deep dark secrets. I'm really curious on what the deep dark secrets are, or some of them that you just would not have learned in a normal setting.
Not so much secrets as like just like getting myself into a lot of trouble. Like why on earth is this not working? Things like that. I set up a show at what's that resort just above Sundance?
I don't
that
know.
BYU owns. It's the Aspen Grove.
Aspen Grove.
That's what it's called. It's just kind of a gathering. Anyway, I was setting up a show. I brought in sound. I set everything up like we always set it up, and brought up the fader of the tracks or whatever, and there was no sound, and there was nothing, and I was going crazy. I checked my signal. I saw it on the meters. I went to the amps. I saw signal on the amps. I put my ear up to the speakers, see maybe if we had blown drivers or something, but how could they all be blown?
Yeah.
And finally realized I did not plug in the cables to the speakers. Oh, no. I didn't even bring them. Didn't even have the cables.
Oh, no.
I think that's why. I forgot to plug them in because they weren't even there. But
oh, man. Yeah.
I don't know what you learn either way from
just like it's tough. That's a tough lesson because it's a lesson of systems, right? Of like always packing in the same way.
Absolutely, yeah.
But at the same time, like how intense do you have to be for these mistakes to just never happen, right? You would have to have such a high stress level and such a tight system, and that's a rough way to operate as a person.
It is, but there are people like that. There are people that are so organized. And I'm not organized. I think that's one of my weaknesses. But I mean, what I learned from that is I now have like a list that I can make immediately in my mind, starting with this top of my signal chain. Do I have the mics? Great. Do I have the wireless mics? Great. Do I have the receivers? And I can go through the whole list. And on that list will be my speaker cables. Before I even leave the house, I will go through that list.
Yeah.
So
you're thinking signal flow even before you leave for a gig.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like your phone wallet keys.
And yeah, exactly.
Phone wallet keys.
I do. And my top things are mic stands, cables. That's where I start. Do I have the mics? Great. Do I have the mic stands? Great. Do I have the cables? And then from there, what mixer am I using? And all the infrastructure that goes with that particular system. I visualize it all in my head. Where is it in the trailer? Where is it in the van? Do I have it? Cool.
Nice.
And that has served me very well. And I think it's come from those, just insane mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you learn without mistakes? I guess a good thing I've been learning recently is just if you don't know or you're not familiar with a situation, to just make the mistake quickly and move on. Like, just know it's coming.
I would imagine playing saxophone. My son is really into jazz right now, and he would love interviewing you, I'm sure. But I'm sure it's like, if you're going to make a mistake, do it confidently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's an interesting thing where when you're playing, especially as a group, and you make a mistake, it's really only a mistake if you make everyone stop playing. Yeah. And then it's really, you could even back it up from there. It's only really a mistake if your body language shows.
Okay.
And then like you're just making the group that knows you made a mistake smaller and smaller until like
really funny.
until the ones that actually know jazz are like, that was a little bit out.
You messed up, didn't you?
A little bit out. But that's so interesting because these sound is one of the most complicated systems that has so many fail points. I feel like I watched the rocket go off up to the moon, and I know when they do these missions, they count how many things in that system could fail that would ruin the whole mission. And sound, I think, is one of those things where if an outlet is blown, gone, right? Just one thing. So how do you, you have your list, how do you problem solve when you do hit something like that? In a real-time gig, you're under the clock, everybody's like, what happened to the sound?
It's interesting that you put it that way. Going back a little bit, when I was in high school, I took a small engines class, like lawnmower engines. And at the beginning of the class, the teacher took all of our spark plugs, so we could never test it. We could never start it. And then we went through the whole process of breaking the entire engine down and, measuring the piston and the rings and overhauling it and putting it all together. And on the last class, he gave us our spark plugs back. And we'd give it one pull, A. Second pull, B. Third pull, C. And that's how he graded us. And so, that gave us incentive to make sure that we had crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's before we even, before the class ended. And so I've taken that on like a lot of times when I get done setting up a system, it's all plugged in, everything's in. I take my source, my test material, my phone or my iPod back in the day, and then I would grade myself. I was like, okay, I'm going to raise the fader now. If there's sound, I get an A.
That's such a fun game.
If it doesn't come up, I give myself one more chance. What is it? Did I forget to turn on the amps? Did I forget to unmute something? Is something routed weird? Try it again. If it mess up again, it's a B. So it's always my goal to make sure that I know that everything has been set up. But you were asking about troubleshooting. I think what I do is same as the packing list. Go through the signal chain. Okay, I see somebody singing. Obviously, that's not the problem. It's in the microphone. Where are we not seeing it? Am I seeing it on the board? Okay, then let's go back, check the cable, check the snake or whatever it is. Are we plugged in the right place? And then, so I like to start at the beginning and then work my way towards the problem.
Yeah.
And
what are some of the most just common things for people listening to this to just always have on the top of the mind so they can check these 3 or 4 things just super fast so they don't accidentally they're not looking in the wrong room when the keys are just on the counter,
Right, yeah. I think the biggest mistakes I have seen are engineers who are not paying attention to what gets plugged in where, especially inputs. I don't know if it's from experience or what, but I always know what, I can plug in a 32 channel show and know what everything's plugged into because I keep that in my mind. I need to, because I know that if I lose that information, everything's going to go out the window, especially if I get one channel off. I'm turning up, the guitar when that was a keyboard channel or whatever.
Yeah.
So I always know what's being plugged in where. And I think the biggest problem I've seen is people just plugging into the wrong number. It's so easy to do, especially if they see like an available, oh, this one's available, I'm just going to plug it in there without knowing, no, 11 is the acoustic, you know?
Yeah.
So do you have the option? I mean, you're running your own company, so you have your own equipment, you have your systems, you're in charge of yourself. Is that always the case where you can be like, okay, I'm always going to put first guitar, second guitar, bass on channels, this one, this one, this one, this one?
I do kind of have a kind of a rhythm that I'm used to, kind of a layout that I'm used to. It's not always the same, but when I change it, like I remember that I changed it. You know, maybe I want the drums on a different page this time. Maybe I'll start the kick on 17 instead. But I'll remember. Well, I'm supposed to remember, but then you can go about doing it that way. But then when you run into a problem, you could be like, isn't the snare supposed to be on 18? Okay, let's go check that. 18, you know, whatever
Man,
it is.
You just reminded me the nightmare that is miking drums.
Yeah.
Trying to one of our professors, his name's Todd, and he's the drummer, and he would go into the drumming booth and then leave his whole class in the studio to figure out how to route the drums and make sure they're all mic'd properly. And it's really hard to do when he's not in there to ask questions. And
He would just give us this look.
yeah, he's like, "Are we done yet?"
Yeah.
He's just
Good for
drumming
Todd.
away.
I know Todd, and
Yeah.
I'm glad he did that.
Yeah, puts us through the fire. It's that real world experience
Yeah.
that's so important. It's so important because, you know, music and this stuff is for fun, right? For fun.
Sure.
But
Enjoyment, yeah.
it's for enjoyment, but so much stress kind of builds up around something that's supposed to be, you know, good for everyone, the players and the audience, right?
And it's worse in a live setting because
Live, but live is the most impactful. And I wanted to get to that for you. When I'm in a live setting, I recently played in a friend's showcase, and it was all live sound, and so many cables, so many wireless mics, so many musicians switching on and off, different tracks in the background. And I said to myself, I was like, this is a nightmare. I'm never performing with a microphone ever again. You know, like I was a little bit frustrated, but I know that like this is the world we live in. This is how we can reach the most amount of people. So how do you make a show really impactful, more impactful, and sound better, or at least as best as you can with the instrumentalists and the musicians that you have, better than a recording? So that people will go like, I'm so glad I saw it live.
Okay. Well, that touches on I love live music. I love when I'm listening to my Spotify or whatever. I love to find the live versions of songs and things because I think there's that energy that doesn't exist on the studio recording. Some studio recordings you can't argue that was just perfection. But there's something about a live feel for a show. That being said, a musician, and I shouldn't be speaking because I'm not one, but a musician has to be comfortable to be able to be a musician. And when they're worrying about the technical aspects of it, of the sound, of the lights not coming on, or of the power not working on the stage, I just can't imagine the frustration that must be to be a master of your instrument and at the same time having to do other people's jobs. Unless you're doing it for yourself, then you're doing the job of multiple people anyway. But I think that an important part of live sound is the relationship you have with the artists. I would like to think that a lot of the people who hire me do so because they're comfortable with me. They're confident that I can give them what they need or that I can solve a problem that they might have. And that in a way they can kind of just put that out of their mind, knowing that I will handle it. That's the ideal situation.
Yeah. Do you feel like that sets you apart from other audio engineers, or do you feel like that should be like industry standard?
It should be industry standard. In fact, there's kind of a joke that there's a lot of reels and TikToks out there of sound guys just, being the typical sound guy, always ticked off at somebody.
Yes, I wasn't going to say it.
You're in my house, you do it my way kind of thing, which is really prevalent in the business, and I'm really surprised about that.
Yeah.
That is interesting because I guess it's kind of the musician who's hiring the sound guy, right? Yeah. But I was just thinking as you were talking, I was like, man, if Joe was on sound for every gig, like that would be amazing. that would be such a dream. And it goes to your personality, If I was doing something wrong, I would feel I wouldn't feel slighted by the way that you personally would handle conflict, just from how you hold yourself. And also if something was going wrong, I know that you have the technical ability to figure it out. I don't have to go back there. So I think what I'm coming to is the confidence that you exude and maybe the presence and the peace that you can bring to those around you as the sound guy, because everyone's nervous and they're stressed unless they've done it a million times, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can be one of those grounding principles for the show, then, the show is going to be way better.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I believe that. I believe that I think the number one job of the engineer, or really anyone in production, is to make the performers comfortable enough to do what they're doing. I mean, there's nobody buying a ticket to the Joe Anderson show, sadly.
I'm sure that'd be a really cool
let's
show.
just go see what show Joe's mixing. I don't care who it is. Let's go see who he's mixing.
That would be a really cool turn of events.
Wouldn't that be kind of fun?
Yeah, that would be really fun.
I like the way this guy mixes. I'm just going to see who band he's with these days.
Yeah.
Now, you could probably do that with some guys. But they're there to see their artists, the artists, their favorite artists or whatever. And you have to be in the background. And you can't draw attention to yourself from the audience or from the artist. The artist should forget that you're there or be comfortable enough to just let you go and do your thing and to be able to ask you, hey, Joe, I can't hear such and such in my in-ears or whatever. How do I, can you help me figure it out? And I can go in and say, oh, yeah, it looks like you get a little bit too much of this or whatever. Instead of like, figure it out, man. Done my job.
Yeah.
I'm on break.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're talking a lot about this, connection with the artists, like being able to just hang out with them, be comfortable with them, and have them be comfortable with you. Do you feel like that is something that you had to learn and that you made mistakes with, or is that something that you've always had from the beginning?
Oh, I've made a lot of mistakes with that. I see it a lot. I see it a lot in my new students and new hires or people that I'm working with. And then when I see them, I'm reminded that that's how I was back in the day. Because you picture a sound engineer at a live concert. They are in the middle of the audience and everyone can look at them and everyone can see them. And there's kind of that pedestal that they're on, and it's very empowering. They have the power to destroy the show. They have the power to make the show happen. And I think a little bit of arrogance creeps in, especially with really, really young engineers who, maybe a high school engineer who has the keys to the theater because he's that guy, There's a lot of ego attached to it. And so, So I can't remember where I was going with that. What was your question?
That's okay. It was just, do you feel like you had to learn the hard way?
So
connecting with
so you start snapping back at people who might say, hey, my monitor doesn't sound very good. And all of a sudden that means to you, oh, you suck at what you do. And so you're like, well, that's your problem. Your guitar probably doesn't work. My wife's a performer. She tells me all the times that a sound guy tells her that her guitar's not working or her voice is too loud or too quiet. I'm like, what? That's not a thing. You can't tell somebody that.
They have the power to change that.
Right. So, I mean, again, when you're defensive like that, like nobody's happy. The artist isn't happy to perform. The management who hired you isn't happy. Nobody's happy. And music, like you said, it's a pleasure. It's a joy. Everyone involved in it is involved for a certain reason because they want it to be this beautiful thing. And nobody wants to do that when they're mad and cranky.
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing is people have these huge experiences and they want it to be fun. And for me, I'm trying to make it a little bit more casual. I'm trying to like go and like maybe perform in Park City just on the street with my friends, and I just bring a very simple sound setup, things like that. Going from very small system to a very large system, how would you set it up? Let's say like I have a very small system. I have a speaker like with a tower. It's got like a subwoofer and a tower. It can have lots of inputs, so I could have a full band on this one thing, and then I can mix it mobily, so I can stand back and I can mix it with my phone. How are you doing that? If I was like, hey, will you run sound for this very small, this is kind of like a wedding band situation, but you have one tower, one speaker, it's all coming out one thing. How would you do that?
Like if you provided it and you just asked me to come mix it, whatever.
And how are you making it sound the best? How are you mixing?
The greatest thing that has been invented is this ability to wirelessly mix whether on a phone or an iPad. It's changed everything. A long time ago, I went and saw Les Mis at the Capitol Theater, I think, in Salt Lake. And I got like the cheapest seats, which were the very, very back. And I couldn't hear. But I could see right in front of me that there were some speakers, like some delay speakers all the way back. And what made me sad is that I felt like the sound guy never walked up there when he was testing, or he would have known. That was the problem. And so the great thing about these wireless controls is that you can walk around the entire audience. And I think that's what I would do in that situation. In fact, when I mix weddings or things like that, I'm wading through the tables, wading through the dancers, because it sounds differently in different places. And sometimes you have to compensate in one to be able for it, for something to get to the other. Like you may hear the drums too much when you're close up to the stage, but when you get back, the acoustic energy of the drums aren't reaching it, so you have to turn them up a little bit. And so you go back to the front and you realize it's turned up too much. And so it's always a game of adjustment. And I think your ultimate goal is that everyone is hearing the show and hearing a pleasant sound. So
maybe not the same sound.
Not the same.
But a pleasant sound.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. And then when it comes to like a middle ground venue, so I'm thinking like the Velour, for example. Okay. It's not a huge place. It's kind of but a lot of people can fit in there. You know. What are you doing there if Corey called you up and like, hey, we need a sound guy?
I've done that before.
You have done that.
Corey,
this is perfect.
Yeah. There's a few artists that have asked me to mix in there, and Corey's always great to let me come in and use his system. But with those tight quarters, you get a lot of people in there, and suddenly your noise floor of just people talking and whatever, suddenly, the difference between the noise, good sound, too loud, you have this window to work in. Yeah. You have to be louder than the noise and quieter than the piercing. And that's kind of a battle. But I mean, that's a good reason to use your dynamics and things to kind of squash things into that window. Those things that you learned about in your live sound or in your recording classes and things.
Yeah. Like compression and
compression and things like that, so that things aren't getting out of control. But like Velour's got a good, it's always had a good system that's got good coverage, and you just you turn it up so it's nice and punchy. That if people are really there to hear the music, they're not going to be noisy anyway, and so you really do have a lot of room to. For a nice dynamic show and whatever it is you're doing. But again, you want to make sure that your artists can hear what they need to hear. And that maybe, sometimes you need to compromise with them also. Like, I'm turning down your vocal mic in the house and I still hear it so loud through your monitors. Is there any way that you can take a little bit less? A lot of times they'll be like, oh yeah, I've got like so much. You could totally take it down. And those small but noisy venues, you're kind of battling stage noise and house volume, and you kind of have to make a balance there because the artist got to hear, and the audience has got to hear.
That's such a, and see, this is maybe one of the reasons why I have trouble with live sound, is because as a musician and listening to these things, I can, it's always maybe too boomy or like it's too piercing, but it's such a delicate art to be able to mix, somebody's recorded track is an art. To be able to do it on the fly and have things change and the room level change, how many people are in the room. It sounds like you're really using your ears very tightly on the fly. Is there anything that you do that you can do? There is this program, please sponsor us, Sound Gym. It's great for practicing, like hearing different EQ levels and compression and like slight differences in volume. And you can use it to practice things like that. But maybe in a live setting, is there anything that you found other than just doing show after show after show after show?
For just like sculpting the sound the way you want it?
Knowing what you want to change and hearing something and being like
the practice.
The practice of being able to know what you want to bring up and down.
It's interesting. I guess on some shows everything else might just sound really good, but like you have a problem instrument, a problem child, maybe that bass guitar just isn't sitting right. Like everything else sounds good, and so you're not too worried about the mix, but you have time now because everything's good to maybe just kind of dig into that bass channel. Do I need to compress it a little bit? Do I need to boost this guy here? What is it that I need to do? And you can make those little adjustments as you go, concentrating on just the one instrument, trying to have it match the dynamics and the energy of all the other instruments while keeping it right where it's supposed to be in the mix. I don't know, I think, and then the next show it might be, if you're mixing the same band or the same show, you might have a problem with another instrument, and the bass sounds just fine in there. And I think that's it's a good opportunity for you to do that. You make slight adjustments where the audience isn't going to be like, what in the world's going on? But you can kind of hear, if I adjust the ratio there, I can hear what's happening there. And
Are you doing that a lot? So you do sound for the Noorda. The Noorda Center is the Performing Arts Center at UVU. The Utah Symphony performs there. It's a top-notch place to perform. So you're mixing sound in this beautiful venue. Now you've gone from like middle ground to now this large venue. Let's say you have a situation where you have a bunch of people. This is a problem sometimes. This is a place where acoustic music is for the Utah Symphony, right? But a lot of the times you have mics and you have, these mic'd up shows in this very echoey room. What are you doing in there?
Well, yeah, the Noorda was designed for the live concert hall to be the largest venue. And so when we have big artists come through, that's where we put them, whether or not their sound is appropriate in a live concert hall or not. We have to make it work.
Yeah.
And when we get a lot of loud instruments like guitar amps or live drums and things like that, you have to start by letting the room do what it's going to do, because it's going to do it whether or not you want it to or not.
What do you mean by that?
The concert hall has its own. It is its own instrument. It has its own sound. If you're there listening to an opera solo or an orchestra of some kind, it has its own sound. And I think people who are really into recording and acoustics and things like that you could probably hand them a recording of that show, and they could be like, was this recorded at UVU? Because they can hear the characteristics of the room.
Yeah.
And so what that means is, like in the concert hall at the Noorda, for example, there's a kind of a resonant frequency around. I don't know if you guys discovered this when you were doing your thing in there, but right around like 300 hertz, 315 hertz, the room kind of comes to life. And so it can quickly get muddy when when instruments start building on that and the harmonics start, stacking up on there. And so you have to keep that in mind when you want to start amplifying things in that room. Just knowing that peak that's already there might be problematic. Even if you're EQing it out, that energy is still there and it can build up. And so I think knowing the room, a big room is going to have that kind of, any room, the small wedding places that you're doing, because you're going to be in a box, and those standing waves are going to build up and things like that.
So what are the couple things that an engineer that, let's say they're moving between large venues, small venues, and medium venues, maybe there's some sort of framework that you use to check off boxes for checking the room or the space. So I'm thinking like maybe things like reverb, like you were talking about, what frequencies. There's a way to test all that, right? Do you ever find yourself doing that to like create a roadmap for the room, or are you doing it now at this point by intuition?
Yeah, well, a little bit of both. Back in the day, I didn't know what to listen to. I could put on a track or whatever and listen to it, and I wouldn't know what I'm listening for. Nowadays, I have from a recording session that my wife did, I have her vocal only track, just her dry vocal, and I will play that in a venue. I've heard that so many times that I know exactly what it's supposed to sound like. And when something stands out, when something gets boomy, or when something gets lost, I know that there's a problem.
That's a really cool way to do both the intuitive and just the test.
Yeah. So kind of the stereotypical live sound guy would put on Steely Dan. I don't know why that became the practice, but I guess it's very well engineered or whatever, which is cool if you know that track really, really well. But I think you have to know your reference material, and that's what I'm getting at. Is if you put something on that you're familiar with, you can listen to it and hear where it doesn't sound right, and then you can make the adjustments.
Is that what you call ringing out a room?
Yeah, that's one tool.
Okay.
Another tool I did early in the day, like before I was able to do that with music, was you set up a mic in the room, and then you run pink noise through the system, and then you watch that on an analyzer. You're looking for a flat response through that mic, and if you don't have it, if you're seeing huge peaks at 200 and then another one at like 2K or whatever, you have to figure out how you're going to flatten that out a little bit. You can use a graphic EQ or a parametric and kind of match those peaks with a dip. Ideally, you want your room to sound exactly like what is going into it. Yeah. And that's kind of what you use an EQ for, is to kind of equalize the room to do that. And so pink noise is a great tool, but if you really have a problematic room, you'll find yourself pulling way too much out. And so if you want to use both of those, what I like to do is, as soon as I get the system fired up, listen to a tune that I know really well. That full frequency, all the instruments, all the things. Listen to it, decide if I like it or not. Run pink noise, take a look at what it does, make those adjustments, put that track right back on, same level, everything, see if it sounds better. And if it sounds better, I might just keep it. If it's now missing something, I might just reverse what I did a little bit, just till I find a good sweet spot, till it sounds good.
You're walking around the room with your mobile EQ.
Yeah. If you can do it that way, it's awesome. Because again, you might get to a portion of the room where there's a really big buildup of a certain frequency. And so you cut it so it sounds great right there. And then you walk over here and it doesn't, and now you've lost that. And so you kind of find that middle section. If you don't have the ability to like put in fill speakers or whatever, if you're depending on just the main PA to do that kind of thing.
Fill speakers. Can you expand a little bit on that for a room?
On like a fill speakers. So we'll do that in the concert hall of the Noorda, for example. We have a left, center, right flown very high.
I see those.
Yeah. and that design was meant to cover. They're actually 40 degree by 90 degree horns, but they've rotated them so that you're covering 90 degrees vertically, basically the front row up to the back row, which is when you're talking about finances, that's a cheaper way to do it. And I think that might be what the person who installed that had to stay within a certain bid or something. But it works rather well. But when you have like a vocalist, it's usually vocals where the problems come in. You're sitting in the front row and you see Bernadette Peters standing right there, but you hear her from here. It's kind of a weird image. When you see her right there, you want to kind of be able to hear her right there. And so we'll lay out some very low profile speakers along the front of the stage and then time align those so that when that sound from the speaker gets to your ears, it's the same time that these close ones are getting to your ears.
That sounds like a complicated process.
It can be.
Okay.
I mean, certainly there are, you'll pay $1 million for an acoustic company to come in and do that for you. But there's ways to rough it in where it makes a huge difference. I use a laser pointer, like a laser tape measure, and I'll measure how far those speakers are from me.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Okay, that one's 32 feet away from me.
Yeah.
These are 12 feet away from me. So that means there's a 20 feet difference. And on your mixer, you can go to the delay, the output delay, and you can choose whether you want it to be milliseconds or meters or feet.
Oh.
And I'm just like,
Cool.
I'll change it to feet, and I'm going to delay these ones that are right in front of me so that they wait however long 20 feet is, so that the sound coming from here hits me the same time coming here.
So you don't have to do all that math. Technology.
Yeah, so you don't have to do all the math. Exactly.
That's nice. That's comforting.
So in a place like the Noorda Center, you're worried about obviously the timing when things are hitting an individual. That's one aspect. Then you're measuring the room and what's peaking in that room, and you're trying to mitigate that. And then you're trying to find a sweet spot everywhere in the room. Is there any spot in the room that you're just like, they got the cheap seats? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
you guys should have bought your tickets earlier. I mean, you do what you can.
Yeah, where's the best place to sit in different venues? So let's say we have the Noorda Center. I was told maybe the best seats are kind of like those box seats near the side. And that's kind of like why people have box seats near the edges, is because that's where the best sound is. But I don't know.
Are you talking like elevated?
A little bit elevated, so they're at the same level as the stage, and then they like have the wall right there. So
I don't know what the appeal is of the box seat, other than you're not sitting like this next to somebody. You have your own chair. You kind of have your own space. It's kind of like sitting in first class on an airplane. I think that's a big thing. I think you can, depending on where it is, you can sit much closer to the stage, and so visually, it's a great place to be. I don't think audio-wise it would be that great. In the concert hall, we have above every box seat we have a speaker in the ceiling, and it takes the mix that we send it, usually just a copy of the house mix, and just kind of rains that down on those box seats. So it always sounds good there. But I think if you want the whole experience, you might want to sit closer to where the engineer is sitting, because if they're making it sound as good as it can to them, then you'll want to sit by them.
So if I'm getting tickets to, for me, like an orchestra or a symphony, then you say maybe sit a little bit back middle. Is that the best place for me to sit so I can get the full impact, where I'm not getting any weird things because I'm too close, and I'm not so far that I'm not getting the full weight of the sound that I want to feel as a person? Because the feeling of live sound, like the sensation in your body, is different than when it's coming out of your car speakers or your speakers just at home. It's like there are other things there. It's like it's coming from all directions, not just one, because you're in a room and the acoustic sound does bounce off. So you're saying middle back, a little bit closer to where the engineer is.
Yeah, I think for an acoustic show for the Utah Symphony, obviously there's no engineer in there. In fact, we take our mix pit that we have and we fill it full of chairs. So when we are engineering Utah Symphony, we're behind glass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you want to hear the source. You want to hear the source more than you hear the room, the reflections. And in an orchestra, that's hard to do because the source is so big.
Yeah.
And so you kind of want to be at that critical distance where you hear the most direct source and the least reflections.
And this is a good example of like acoustic versus. I probably should have come up with a like one obviously with technology, but this is actually a good. This is a good comparison because back in the day, the symphony orchestra was created because there was nothing to amplify, right? So it's created to make this beautiful sound. But now we can amplify things, right? We can change things. How do you make it even better? How do you make it even better than just like this whole acoustic, or can you, or is it oranges and apples? Like, you can't really compare the two.
I think you can. I mean, at some point you have to mix the two. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to the Tabernacle on Temple Square in Salt Lake City. It's an acoustic space. Everything. If you've ever been to music in the spoken word there. It's just a beautiful mix of choir and orchestra and amazing musicians. And the room pretty much takes care of that. Well, they move that same show during busier seasons. They move that into the 20,000 seat conference center, which is a much more acoustically controlled space. And so things need to be amplified. And like, I like to watch that show on TV because it's live, it's live everything, video and mixing, and there are microphones everywhere. And those engineers there do a great job of mixing the acoustic energy that's already there, enhancing the things that might not have the power to get all the way back to the back of the room. And you have to, that's a big dance, a lot of moves you have to learn. But that's taking something that's acoustic and making it travel, making it get where it needs to go. That's just a lot of mics, just a bunch of mics.
That's cool. Yeah. That's a really cool. I didn't know.
And a mixer the size of 8 tables.
I'm sure you feel like you're very powerful with all those favors.
Or absolutely overwhelmed. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot about like specific venues and like how you're adjusting the sound for different spaces. I kind of want to talk about what kind of audio jobs you've had in your career, like if it's varied a whole lot or if it's been mostly live sound, and kind of like where you've started and where you're at now.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've been a lot of places. In fact, I think that my specialty, if I have one, has kind of become putting on shows in places where shows have no business being.
That's awesome.
I started out as a student. Some of my friends were in theater, and for their senior projects, they had to put on like a condensed version of a full musical. And so, this is before the days of renting minus tracks. I think I don't know how it worked in the 1900s, but these students would say, "Hey, I know someone who plays the bass. I know someone who plays the piano, and I know a drummer, and they can get instruments." And so they bring them in and they start playing, and now they're saying, "Well, now we can't hear our singers because these guys are playing too loud." And so then they call me and they're like, "Hey, we're doing this weird show in this weird room on campus somewhere. Can you bring in some sound and some mics so we can mic our actors and then mic our band and things like that?" And I just started like borrowing this to kind of put together a little system and doing that. And then I started doing shows on parking garage rooftops, in
That sounds like a lot of fun.
in
Yeah.
parks, in
Very unique.
bookstores, just
Real life places where
where people gather,
mm-hmm.
but you wouldn't normally have sound.
It's not a venue.
Yeah, we started putting on backyard shows, our own backyard shows, and we build a stage in the corner, and so I think that again I'm losing the question because I was going off.
All good. We're just talking about your career, kind of.
Oh yeah,
What kind of?
yeah. So I started in musical theater. It was theater that I was doing, basically. These tours I was going on were reviews of musical theater. And so it was singers and dancers wearing wireless mics. It was a pit band, a rhythm section, maybe with recorded brass and strings, and just mixing that all together and doing it one venue, one day, a new venue every day. Same system, same band, but different challenges along the way. Did that for a long time, and then started getting into. I had a guy in a band call me and say, "Hey, have you mixed a lot of bands?" And I said, "I haven't." He said, "Well, what would you do? What would you put? What mics would you use for a drum kit?" And I don't know. I guess I gave the right answer because he let me mix them for the first time. So I mixed this band, and I really enjoyed that. And I started doing live bands a lot more than that. So that became sort of similar, taking the same sound system or a few different sound systems to different places, different venues, different parks, different auditoriums.
How big would you say your sound system is that you take to those different places?
Well, I have a whole bunch. I have a whole bunch of different, and they kind of, if I'm doing a small wedding, there's that one because I can't get it in the way. It has to not be seen.
Yeah.
Or I do like this show in Spanish Fork every year where there's 15,000 people, and I have to put up like line arrays on huge towers and then delay towers, and so I have that system. It fills a truck. I have a system that fits in the back of the minivan.
This is a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff to keep track of.
Yeah, and I think because my career has taken me to so many different weird places doing sound at such weird areas, I have a system for each of those. Yeah. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that I may never use again. But if we ever go back to that one place, I have a system for it.
Man, that sounds like a lot of fun, and like you need a second garage. You probably have a warehouse or something. But with your microphones specifically, you touched on it just a little bit with the drummer. I'm always so curious. I'm like, because I have just a very small system, with the couple microphones that I've gathered over time, and I don't know which one would be best in what situation. So what are your kind of go-to mics that you go to for a vocalist, and then any other situation, like maybe a string player and a saxophone, anything that you can think of that needs to be mic'd, or an amp? What are you using? Are you choosing different ones, or do you just have kind of a one size fits all?
I'm not much of a mic snob. I think there are a lot of just really good mics out there. Of course, the long standard of the Shure SM58, it'll do whatever you need it to do. Yeah. But there are other more fun options that you can use, especially for like vocals and things. Their Beta series, I like their Beta 58s. I like the Beta 87s and all of their varieties. I like some of the Sennheiser options. The 935, it's really cool hypercardioid that I like for vocals, especially like on I find it's really great for female vocalists who don't really cut through the mix really well. It gives them a little bit more oomph in their frequency range.
Are you pulling out the ribbon mic ever?
The ribbon?
Yeah.
I don't. I have some friends that use them, and to good results. I always learned in my classes that they were fragile and
probably not good for a live setting.
Yeah, and
for that reason.
Yeah. But I've never had the opportunity to own one, so.
Yeah, probably for the best. You use it once and get knocked over, right?
But I've heard that the newer ones are a little more robust and can be used for live sound.
Yeah, they can get that a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
I've seen some people on Instagram that are using these mics, the Shure SM. Is this 57? Yeah.
The SM7,
Yeah.
so that is.
Oh, SM7B. I always get those two mixed up. I see them using it for vocals as they're like singing, and I don't know. I knew that these were good for podcasting, but I wasn't sure if they were like a typical go-to singing mic. What would you think about
I
that?
think they're really good. I think the reason why they're used for podcasts is because they give you that nice, warm, rich NPR sounding. If you have that voice, which I don't.
Oh man, I could pull it out.
You do it?
I
You do
get
it?
but mine's more like a little sultry for you guys. I don't bring it out because it's not that kind of podcast. But
That's the after hours
Welcome
one.
Yeah.
to the Critical Ears podcast.
There you go.
I wish I had that voice. No.
I think it's just a really true.
Yeah,
It's a true professional sounding mic, and you can't beat the pop filter on it.
yeah,
I mean, just like that, it's a perfect vocal mic.
it's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I'd love to have one. I tried buying one when COVID hit and everybody started doing their shows from home.
Yeah.
Everyone was using these. I was like, man, I'd like to get my hands on one, and they were hard to find for a while.
Kind of like a Nintendo Switch at the time. I think I waited like 6 months to buy that for my wife.
Oh man.
Anyway. Well, that's really interesting because mics, they have such a crazy way of filtering things, and so I was just thinking if I'm switching up mics each time, then that's going to be changing like what I'm EQing and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm getting like probably use the same system over and over, but the mics that you had mentioned, the SM58, right? That's what you said. Just workhorse all around. If there's a young engineer that's just starting out, like maybe buy like a couple of those, and then maybe get a little bit more specialized
Sure.
from there. Any other gear that you think is like to start off would be like I would get if you could do it different and you had to start from scratch, what would you do?
I've thought
And
about
then
this.
what's
I'm
your
trying
like
to remember.
what's your like dream gear as well? Any stuff? Because like you are the band that controls the technology. Like that's your
Yeah.
instrument, right?
Having the right tools makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
I have, in my later years, been able to use DPA microphones, instrument microphones. They are they're fantastic. They sound so smooth, and you get great gain, and they're just like a sultry sounding mic, just really true and beautiful sounding. They're very expensive, and fragile, and I don't know if I could justify having some,
Yeah.
but I might still.
Is it what's special about them?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just
It's the
sound.
magic sauce.
Yeah,
Interesting.
you got something in there.
I think it has something to do with I can't remember.
It's
yeah.
That's right.
I've read about it. I don't know the science very well, but
When it comes to speakers or anything like that, do you have any preference for those types of things?
speakers are such a it's such a mixed bag because some of the best sounding speakers are the heaviest. I think the box, the wood.
Oh, so you got to go to the gym if you want the
Yeah.
best sound.
So when I bought my first line array, I took out a second mortgage on my house. They were so expensive, but I wanted to get into the game. And there was an engineer, a sound company owner named Ed Pratt Sound. He's legendary. I asked him what I should get, and he told me about these small format EAW brand, the KF730. He says, I have some. He says, if you get some, then when I have bigger gigs, I can rent yours from you. And when you have bigger gigs, you can rent mine from me.
Oh.
And so we're like, okay, I'll do that.
Nice.
And they're really a beautiful box. And they're 80 pounds each.
Oh my goodness.
And I've had stacks up to like 12 aside in some venues, and they're so heavy. And I can't like go on the road with them because my back just won't work. Like years ago, I convinced my wife that I was either going to be an invalid or that I needed lighter line arrays. So we got a lighter system. It doesn't sound as good, but it still sounds really good.
Yeah.
But they're made of plastic, and they're like 20 pounds a piece, and they're easy to throw around. And so you have to find,
Yeah.
do I have a crew? Do I have a union crew where I'm going to set up my speakers? Is it just me and my van?
Yeah.
And then you have to, and then, you know, you want them to sound good, of course, but there's some practical things, you know. You know, the piano players I work with don't carry a Steinway, you know, a 9-foot Steinway with them. They have a Noorda that they play, you know, because they can't take that with them. So you kind of have to make that decision.
Yeah.
But I love the EAW. I love everyone's got great sounding boxes right now. You just about can't go wrong.
Yeah. I want to revisit the question that you asked, and then we kind of moved on. But the starting setup for someone just starting, who wants to get his foot on the ground, what kind of equipment do you think he needs, whether specifics or just in general? Or sorry, he or she, my bad.
Yeah. For starting out, like taking sound to a gig, basically.
Yeah.
Well, in these instances, I usually start backwards from the very end of the signal chain. How big is my audience? Like, how much space am I wanting to cover? And then I choose my speakers based on that. Okay. Again, can I afford the space that I need to cover? Yeah. And what's my happy medium? And then if I don't have the money, if I don't have tons of money, I can buy some used boxes, get a nice amplifier, get a mixer that I can afford that's going to give me what I want, even if I have to cut out a few features. Nowadays, you can get a digital mixer for next to nothing that has everything you could ever want in it. And that's what a dream that would have been for me back in the day.
How many tracks do you think would normally?
Well, and again, that's, you have to make that decision. Is this for me, my solo gig? Can I get away with this 4-channel mixer, my guitar, my tracks, my pedal, whatever it is, or do I want to be able to support the band? You know, and there are 4 of us, and once we get all our instruments together, we end up having 12 channels. Mixers generally come in 8s or 4s, maybe. You can get a 4 or an 8, a 12, 16. You know, so yeah, just have to decide how many channels you want to be able to handle. Do I want to be able to have an opening act come and use my mixer? Do I want to get a little bit bigger so that
I wouldn't have thought about anybody else using my gear.
Yeah.
That's obviously going to happen all the time.
Yeah.
Probably put your name on everything.
And you're always going to need more than you have.
Yeah.
Or, and there's a band I work with regularly that if they have everything we want to mic, we're like 17 channels. So in the sound world, that takes you into another world. That one channel takes you into another world.
Yeah.
A much bigger mixer, another stage box, all these different things. And so the band decided, let's condense. And they took like a stereo overhead on the drums and they made it mono. Keys, they decided to go to mono instead of things like that.
Yeah.
So that you can travel lighter, or so that you can fit in, like if you're in a festival setting and they only have 16 channels for every group, then you fit into that. So a lot of things you have to kind of consider when you're going to make that decision.
Is there, so I was interning for Jazz Mentors Foundation here in Utah, and the audio setup it was fairly big. They had their own mixing, their own soundboard, and then they also had some other like boxes off to the side of the stage that I think was sending signal to the mixing board in front of house, because I don't think they had a wire or anything going back there. So I think it was all digital. like Bluetooth or something. But it kind of made me realize maybe there's more to this setup than just a mixer and speakers and microphones. Is that a pretty common thing?
Yeah.
And what would those things be?
Those are the fun parts of the sound system.
Yeah.
The mics, the speakers, the mixer. Yeah. There's so much boring stuff that you have to get to make your life bearable. Most bands don't have a snake, like a single cable that runs from the stage to the mix position. Instead, they either have the mixer set up in the front row and like 24 cables coming in and out, and it's a big mess, or they'll have it set on the stage or something. But like, you have to keep in mind, if you want all of this here and you want the mixer back here, there's got to be a way to connect it to, things like that. That's a boring thing. A snake is an incredibly boring thing to buy. But these boxes you saw were probably digital snake boxes, which give you, multiple channels anywhere, ins and outs, connected by a Cat5 cable. And you send one up to the mixer, and that's it. Very slick. That's kind of the way of things nowadays. But yeah, boring things like power for everybody on the stage. Enough cables, mic stands, blah.
Yeah. Mic stands. It sounds like I should make a mic stand company for cheap, durable mic stands.
Yeah.
They do really well.
And that's something you learn is, if I skimp, I may realize that I've skimped at some point when the thing falls apart. The thing doesn't work.
My friend did harp on me. I bought I think it was like $80 or something, like mic stand, or $100 mic stand. She's like, oh no, you don't need that. Like, just get the cheap one. And I've now acquired a couple mic stands, and I was like, I like my nice one. It's just nice, and it can be tossed around, and it's pretty durable. But I mean, he's right. It's just me using it right now.
Yeah.
But as you grow as a musician, and or you pivot into sound, if that happens, your gear is going to follow you. So that initial investment is probably usually worth it. Unless there's something that you purchased that you're like, I did not need to get this really expensive thing. I know at June Audio, Scott, he has all the gear. He loves gear. He was telling us he just loves it so much, and he kind of talks about it like a vice. But I think it's really, really cool. Is there anything like that you think, I didn't need this, and I never touch it anymore, and I should probably sell it, but I don't want to because just in case.
Oh, I've got so many just in cases.
I guess that's the curse of being the sound guy.
It is, because there's little cool things that do, and my weakness is buying something that's only good for this one particular gig, but it's going to do it so well, and it's going to be so cool, and then I have this thing that never really works again. Trying to think of an actual example.
No, that's okay. It just sounds like you need. I did a gig, and I think I used all the money I got from the gig to buy something that would be convenient for the gig. So it was just like a wash. But playing music was I like it.
Sure.
Right. So it just made it more fun for me. And I think that's kind of what we're all trying to do. We're trying to make it through life, pretending to work. Pretending to work, and sometimes it's a little bit hard, but we try to do things that we love. And we've been talking about on this podcast how people who do this thing, like, it's not a normal thing. We were talking about being a gigging musician. This is a very, it's a gig kind of job. It's unstable in some situations. I think that's a little bit the stigma, but I do think there's going to be so much more live sound that's coming up in the next 10 years. As people start to get tired of AI and AI music, and they're just going to be like, I want a real life human being. I think this is going to be a really interesting time for sound, especially sound engineers, to really dial it in and get ready for that huge wave that's about to crash over everyone.
I agree. I really think people want that experience. And the music industry has changed so much since I started, because I was going on tours, CD release tours, where bands were releasing their CD or cassettes even.
Wow.
That's how far back I go. But but the musicians had suitcases full of product, of their music to sell.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we have boxes and boxes of the product that we just have to throw away because no one wants to buy that thing. But now the money goes toward concerts. Concerts used to not cost so much. It was just a means for them to sell their music. But now the concert is an experience, and that's what people want. They want to be able to see the live musician. They want to experience what it's like to be in the same room with whoever it is that's singing or dancing or performing or whatever it is that's going on. And that's the experience. That's what you're paying money for. And so all of these tours, all of these groups are trying to make that experience the best that it can be. They want it to look good. They want it to sound good. They want everyone to be comfortable and to have that experience no matter what ticket you bought. So I agree. I think we're there, and I agree with you. I think we're probably going to go there more.
I don't think that's really exciting. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
that's really exciting. And I mean, for business as well as just for getting people together, which is the whole point of music.
Yeah.
One of the points of music, unless you're the headphone guy that just likes to tune out to the world.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you? Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today, TJ? Or
I think I'm good to move on to the problem section. What do you think?
Excellent. Yeah. so many issues. I have my own personal problem that I have this huge, and it's going to be a simple fix. I know it's going to be a simple fix, but this is why I don't like going to.
Dr. Joe's on the air. Go ahead.
I can never understand the singer, ever. And they're the person front and center. And I'm a singer myself. And so I'm sitting in this venue and I'm like, could be speaking German. You know, like hand me a flyer of your lyrics because I can't understand you. Part of this is a diction issue. Like maybe their lyrics are a little bit too quick.
Sure.
But I think a lot of it could be settled with the mix. Is this a problem you also kind of notice in the sound industry? And
yes.
And how would you go about fixing that? Both, well, just from your end, obviously you got to turn down everybody else, but why does it keep happening? It must be nuanced because it just keeps happening. The bass is too loud, the guitars are too loud, the drums are too loud, and I just can't hear, you know? I
think when I got married to my wife, when we were dating and everything, we'd start singing songs from our childhood, you know, the tunes that were on in the 80s and things like that. And I'd sing something that wasn't the right lyrics because I didn't know what they were saying. But my wife is very much into lyrics. She's a songwriter, and it's all about the words for her. She's the one who would open up the CD and read all the liner notes, read all the lyrics, because that's where the power is. And she'd like say, "You sang that wrong. This is what they say." And I was like, "Really? That's what it says? I didn't even know that." She's more of a lyric person. I'm more of a big picture person. But since then, I've understood the importance of hearing the lyrics, and especially because I work with so many singer-songwriters or people whose songs are based on the lyrics so much that has become, and also my musical theater, obviously, that's everything.
the story. Yeah.
You got to know what they're saying. So vocals have always been very important to me. But I know that a lot of engineers, like if you listen to a sound check, they might do 20 minutes just listening to the kick drum, just making sure that the kick drum sounds right. Wow. And then they'll, you know, and of course they're trying to make sure everything sounds right. But sometimes when you listen to the mix, you're like, this person likes the kick drum. That's what I'm hearing right now. And you don't hear the singer or whatever. Yeah. Different genres require different things. And especially with this kind of music, with lyrical music, it has to be the voice first. And so I approach that from when I set up the sound system. Like I said, I may just put a vocal only track on the PA and listen to how it sounds. And then I just make sure the vocal sounds good. Sometimes I'll even start sound check with the vocal. Not very often, because I think a singer just walking out into a new venue doesn't want to start singing a cappella into a room because it's a little, daunting.
Intimidating, yeah.
But I may get the guitars first, and things that kind of have a voice of their own, that have diction, that have kind of have their musical words that need to be heard. You have the individual notes, but then I like to get the singers in as soon as I can. Or I might say, hey, why don't you guys run a song? I'll try to get a basic mix, and then we'll come back and do individual instruments. But I'm wanting to take the vocal and then to build everything around it. I want that vocal to be strong and not overbearing, and I want the supporting instruments and ensemble to be full and strong, and to do what they're supposed to do. But it's all kind of hinged around that vocalist. Yeah, it's very important for me.
I had a problem with vocalists, but it was in a different setting. It was still live theater, but it was musical theater.
Okay.
And I was running into the issue where it was for Secret Garden, and the girl playing Mary, she was very young, and every time she would sing, it was like I could understand her sibilance so much, but like her actual like voice part I couldn't understand. And it was like the voice was really soft, but the sibilance was really loud. And every time I tried to EQ it, I feel like I was just doing something wrong. I couldn't get it right.
Can you define the word sibilance?
Oh, sibilance, like your S's and P's and I just gave someone
Sorry
really
about
loud
that.
sounds. Sorry.
Yeah,
But,
Mary Lennox. That's one of the first shows I ever mixed was Secret Garden.
yeah.
Where was the mic placed?
I think it was just a cheek mic.
It's on the cheek.
Yep. It's one of those tiny ones.
I have a loathing for wireless mics, especially those kind.
Yeah.
I think they are a necessary evil
Yeah.
and a means to an end. And I dislike them so much. But sometimes you have to move it around. Sometimes you have to move it down here. Sometimes you have to move it here. Every singer kind of, their head sounds differently. And sometimes, I don't know, just the shape of the face. Sometimes some frequencies are blocked. Depending on how they sing, they might be more nasally. They might have like a head voice or like a throaty voice. And you have to change the mic based on that. And sometimes it takes time to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think mixing a bunch of young kids doing musical, you don't have time to do that.
Yeah, no.
But if you can, I mean, that's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah. How do you think like moving the mic around the face changes the sound?
Well, you know, like those bone conducting earphones we have, that's putting the sound into our head.
Okay.
But by the same token, the sound our voice makes resonates our head. And so a lot of the sound can come through the cheekbones.
Okay.
But again, if you have kind of a throaty voice, it might be a little bit lower. I know like beatboxers sometimes have mics on their throat to be able to get those low notes, like taped on, and then they use the handheld. But vocals are really tough, especially with an omnidirectional microphone. And I think the solution sometimes is just moving it around.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Until the electrical engineers listening can give us something better.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of variables there.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
I do have one actually. I found this on Audio Engineering Reddit. I frequent that. Okay, so this was a post that I found. He said, "Pretty new to sound tech in general, but so far only worked concerts and nightclubs. Just got a gig at a theater. I'm looking for some advice and information on why and how it's different from each other. Which rules and habits of concert mixing am I not supposed to bring to the theater venue? It's obviously very different and seems much less complicated than mixing bands, but I'm not really sure how to approach vocal mics, for instance." We just talked about that. Any advice, tips, and tricks? So the difference between a concert venue and a theater venue.
Yeah. I don't know that the venue is going to have a huge part in it, but I think the genre itself is what's going to dictate what you want to do. Again, I think a theater performance is going to be all the words are the most important.
Yeah.
But a good musical theater has a strong supporting ensemble that has to support it. But I think that vocal rides a lot higher than a lead vocal with, a big loud band. You still want their vocals to be heard, but it's kind of a part of a bigger thing. The fun thing about a lot of theaters is just how acoustically treated they are. A great theater will be like dead silent inside, and that gives you such a palette to paint so many things with effects, with the cues and things.
I like the word paint because it's an art, right? It's like sculpting.
Yeah. I used to do a summer show every year. A group would rent a movie theater, and we would just plug into the THX system with a live mixer, and they would do live music in a movie theater, which is dead silent.
So what you're saying is, if I want to do a live show, I just go to the IMAX, and then I just set up in front.
You can,
right?
Wow.
And that would be the best. That'd be the best situation because it's just treated.
But then you have to remember, like I said, that every venue has its own contribution to the sound, and a movie theater like that is like a big sponge. It's sucking all the sound, and so you have to kind of reintroduce some of the ambience, some of the depth. But it's really fun because all of those effects you've been playing with in your mixer or with your outboard equipment, like you can hear everything, and it's so fun.
That's cool.
And I think it's kind of what theater is for. Is it's a blank sheet where you can create the sound that you want. Whereas a live venue, it's already kind of a noisy place, and so it's always energetic. Like the Delta Center is made for noise. Like when someone cheers the Utah Jazz, they hear themselves, resonating, and everybody resonates, and it's so live and so big. I don't know if you've ever been to the D Event Center in Ogden. It's an acoustically treated basketball arena, and it's a very strange experience to cheer in there during like a basketball game, because you're like, woohoo, and like it's just you cheering. It's almost like just you cheering.
Wow.
But it's a beautiful place to hear a show.
Yeah.
So I think a theater is like we talked about, how the words story is what's most important, and you have to focus on that and kind of build the rest around it.
Well, it seems like today we've had like some common themes of really like rooms. That's kind of, that's the thing. Like you just got to be really focused on the room and who is and what kind of genre you're performing.
Yeah.
Who you're going to focus on. And that really dictates everything else with your gear, with your strategy. Obviously have some systems and organizational things, but it's very situational, which is why this is so nuanced, which is one of the reasons why we have this podcast, is to help people understand this crazy field, and so that we can have a lot of fun, right? And listen to some great music.
Agreed.
Joe, how will people find you if they want to hire you as their sound guy?
I have there's a signal that appears in the clouds. When someone has
like a bat signal?
Yeah.
It says Joe?
It's my logo. Yes. My company is named Andersound, like my last name, Anderson. It's Andersound. I think if you go to andersound.com, it just takes you to my Facebook page, which you can message me from there. But I'm.
That's great. Well, as soon as I have the gig, you're the man.
All right. Let's make some music.
Let's do it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.